Welcome, West Texas. So excited to see you. My name is Amy Henderson, and I am a commissioner with the Governor's Commission for Women, which was established to serve as a champion and resource for women throughout the state of Texas. I have the pleasure of sitting with 13 other extraordinary women from all across the state of Texas. The Governor's Commission for Women is dedicated to advancing economic opportunities for Texas women business owners and entrepreneurs. And we do this by providing education, resources, and referral services. Texas is among the leading states for women-owned businesses, boasting nearly 1 million in 2020. That's amazing. Texas was named the #1 women-owned business-friendly state and had 5 of the top 50 fastest growing women-led businesses. This is amazing. Texas is a great state to be in, a great state to be a women-owned business. And right now, I want to welcome to everyone online at Lubbock and Amarillo watch parties. So if you all want to say hello. So I'm just going to give a few more seconds to Amarillo to see if they can hop on. And there they are. They're coming on. There's Gina. Gina's going to show our watch party in Amarillo. So it's amazing to have this webinar throughout the West Texas, but it's also great for us ladies to come together in our watch parties at Amarillo National Bank and Amarillo and Lubbock National Bank and Lubbock. So welcome, everybody. I want to thank Amarillo National Bank for their sponsorship of lunch at both the Amarillo and Lubbock watch parties. And please stay tuned for the People's Choice Award. I want to introduce you to my good friend and our moderator today, Lanitra Barringer. Lanitra is the Family and Community Engagement Program Director for Amarillo ISD. Lanitra also serves as the co-founder and director of the nonprofit Youth Success Project, where she and others work with youth and their families to encourage and inspire them to pursue and complete a higher education. Lanitra is a long-term advocate of women creating their own success. In her free time, Lanitra mentors women in our community, launches outreach initiatives, and advocates for higher education, and she even dabbles in small business herself. Say hello, Lanitra.
Good morning, West Texas.
I would like to take this time to give a special thanks to our platinum sponsor, Sempra, for your generous contribution to the Beacon State Fund and to the Governor's Commission for Women initiative for women-owned businesses.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Benton-Amon, Vice President and General Counsel of one of Sempra's operating companies, Sempra LNG. For those of you who don't know Sempra, we're an energy infrastructure company, and we're focused on connecting millions through the power of leadership, innovation, and technology. We're putting a lot of energy behind Texas, and we're excited to continue to expand our efforts in a state that is helping advance a better future for all. We're also thrilled to work in a state that's been named one of the best when it comes to creating jobs for women, supporting female-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. The Governor's Commission for Women receives our support because it aligns with our company's value of championing people through its emphasis on promoting diversity and empowering female leadership. At Sempra, we believe that embracing diverse backgrounds and fostering an inclusive workplace leads to better decision-making, advances innovation, and ultimately drives a high-performance culture that is resilient and reflective of the communities we serve. Nationally, we've been recognized for our success, including named to Fortune's Most Admired Companies list, the Bloomberg's Gender Equality Index, and the Corporate Equality Index. And locally, we've established GROW, which stands for Grow Responsibilities and Opportunities for Women. And through it, we're championing career opportunities for women. The bottom line, creating an environment where all women feel empowered at work will be central to our continued success as a company and as a state. We thank the Commission for inviting us to be a part of this important program, and we thank all of you for your participation.
I also want to give an additional thanks to Minerva Consulting and Westfall PR for their generous sponsorship. In just a bit, you will meet professionals in leading cash management, online marketing, social media, and e-commerce who will give you updates and all that you need to know to help grow your business in 2021. Stay tuned directly after today's webinar for the live pitch competition where a West Texas women small business owner will win $7,500. And you will get to vote on a People's Choice Award to win additional $1,000. Please text award to 37607 to sign up to vote, and then voting will open soon. Stay tuned. The $7,500 award is sponsored by Sempra and the Beacon State Fund, and the $1,000 People's Choice Award is sponsored by Amarillo National Bank. Also, please check the chat feature for a fun item. We have a virtual photo booth, and the link is in the chat. So Gina and I have already taken some fun pictures from the webinar that you can share.
You can go ahead and sign up to vote for the People's Choice winner by texting award, AWARD, to 37607. Here's a preview of what's to come during the pitch.
The Wall Street Journal reported 800,000 businesses closed in 2020. Flint Avenue took that as a call to action. Hi, I'm Amy Wood. I'm the CEO of Flint Avenue Marketing, Training, and Technology. And what we do is we combine cross-platform content solutions to solve these problems so that companies can stay competitive in the new digital world.
One of our first of two panels, you're meeting the pros in all things funding and cash flow for small businesses. We'll hear updates and information from both panelists, then have time for Q&A. So please submit your questions via the Q&A feature. If you're at one of our live parties, Gina and Ray are in the room to enter questions for you. Kelly Davila is the Director of Regional Services and Economic Development for the South Plains Association of Governments and Caprock Business Finance Corporation in Lubbock. She oversees multiple loan programs as well as other initiatives that assist communities with public safety, public transportation, water planning, and other services that provide much needed support, especially for our rural communities in the South Plains. Polly Vann is the owner and founder of VTech Environmental Services in Lubbock. They provide disaster response and hazardous waste recovery, and every day is an adventure for her since she never knows what projects they'll be working on from day to day. I bet you that's a busy way to go, Polly.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get started with our conversation with Kelly and Polly. So Kelly, what COVID programs are still available to small businesses?
Well, I think that's a great question, very timely. As you all know, since the pandemic began, there's kind of been a rush of different programs, some related directly to COVID, some not so much. that have kind of come and gone. So if you're all aware of the SBA PPP program and EIDL programs that you've heard a lot about over the last year to 18 months, the majority of those programs are exhausted, so a lot of those are gone. I am happy to share, especially with our local folks in the Panhandle and the South Plains region, that our organization, the South Plains Association of Governments, was fortunate enough to, with our federal partners, develop a program specifically for COVID relief for businesses that are already existing. So we've got some handouts to share later today, but the SPAG core program, if I can just share very quickly, is essentially a fund source that's available to small businesses in both the Panhandle and the SPAG region, as well as the Permian Basin, if any of you are in that area. And it's essentially continuation funding for small businesses that were impacted by COVID. We all think about, restaurants and the early impact that COVID had on a restaurant. But every business, whether you are a restaurant or a salon or a transportation company or a manufacturing company, had an impact. The pandemic had an impact on how their business operated. So we're able to provide basically working capital loans at a fixed rate. It's a low rate, 2.4% for the entire life of the loan. We can go up to 10 years. $100,000 or less are not collateralized. We can go up to $250,000 for a small business. We would have to take some sort of collateral position. What's really neat about our core program is that one of the priorities is actually helping women-owned businesses. So for those of you who own and operate a business or are part of a business and it was impacted by COVID, that program is still available right here locally as well.
Great. So ladies, make sure while we're going through our Q&A that you have your phone to take notes or your pen and paper. So Polly, is there a difference between cash and profit?
Well, I'm a scientist, so it took me a while to learn this, and so I certainly want to share with everyone. Finance is not my strength, and it wasn't my background. So anyway, I learned very early on that cash is money in hand. So you have the money right here in hand. Your credit card is certainly not money in hand. I call it dark money. So anyway, cash is very important when you own a small business. It's the money coming into the organization from your direct business activities. So it's important for you to understand that cash and credit cards are very different. Cash is the money that you have in the bank or soon to be coming into the bank. And credit cards are an expense. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that cash and credit cards are very different. Profit is simply the revenue that's in the business minus the expenses for the month.
Great information. So Kelly, what are SBA loans and how do they work?
Yeah, so prior to the pandemic, our office was primarily involved in the SBA 504 program. We're running that program for small businesses throughout Texas. So let me just speak really quickly to what that program is and how it can be a benefit to a small business. What's really nice about the SBA 504 program is that while it's designed for primarily commercial real estate, so you're building a building, you're buying a building for your business, something along those lines, there are some options to use it for large equipment as well. But what's really nice about it is that it's available for startups. So I know there's a wide variety of people watching today, some that their business is already established. Maybe you've been running it out of your home for the last few years and you're ready to have a storefront, or you've grown to the point where you need office space for your employees. Or maybe you're just ready to start your business for the first time. And the SBA 504 program is flexible enough to handle either option, which is really, really nice. With Caprock Business Finance Corporation, we are located here in Lubbock, but we can do 504 loans, and we've done them throughout the entire state. I would say one of the most important things about thinking about an SBA loan, or maybe even just starting or continuing your business in general, is to build a relationship with a lender, with a bank. We talk to small businesses all the time, whether it's through 504 or whether it's through our core program, who just don't have a relationship with a lender. They've never really utilized a bank. And obviously, we don't want everyone to borrow money. A lot of small business owners really want to pay cash out of hand and not incur that debt. But that's not what a relationship with a lender is. That relationship is really going to help grow your business. They're going to be aware of what you're doing. A lot of local lenders, area lenders in both the Panhandle and the Permian and in the SPAG region, offer maybe a working line of credit or working capital that a small business owner could really use. And if you decide to utilize the SBA 504 program to build a building or expand into a new building, remodel an existing building, whatever the case is with your commercial real estate, we at Caprock are going to partner with a lender to use that 504 program. So 504 is essentially a partnership between us representing the SBA and a bank representing, kind of the conventional financing side. What's really nice about 504, and I'll just kind of throw a few little I have a handout on 504 as well that will be shared throughout this presentation, is number one, if you went in for conventional financing, say to start a small business, depending on what industry you are and what the bank saw as risk, you might be looking at somewhere like a 20 to 25% injection, maybe even more. So basically a down payment that you as a small business owner would have to come up with. Depending on the type of business that you operate and whether it's new or existing, the 504 program can reduce that injection all the way down to 10, 15, or 20%. So what's really nice about that is that's going to free up cash for a small business owner to be able to operate that. And it's going to lessen kind of the risk and the burden that the bank takes, which sometimes makes them more interested. So that injection is huge. And what's also really nice is by using the 504 program, we're able to take a portion of your debt that you're taking out for your small business, usually around 40%, and fix that for the life of the loan, which is usually 20 or 25 years. Right now, our interest rates on 504 are 2.8%. So imagine fixing that interest rate for 25 years to build a building for your business. That's a huge incentive for small business owners.
That's some very informative information, Kelly. So if you all are looking for a local bank, one of our sponsors today is Amarillo National Bank, Lubbock National Bank. Feel free to call them for more information. Next, Polly, I make a profit, but I never seem to have enough cash in the bank. What is happening? This is something all of us need to know.
I think that's a common mistake that small business owners make is cash flow planning. You think you have money on hand and you have money coming in from projects, but you didn't account for all your expenses or you had an unexpected expense. So cash flow refers to money coming into the business and money flowing out of the business. So you need to make sure that you don't get yourself in financial stress. I'll give you an example. During Hurricane Katrina, we had 12 employees supporting that initiative. We had to pay $59 per day per diem. So a week of that was $6,000 against our organization, and then we had $21,000 a week in payroll. So all that money had to be paid up front to the employees for per diem and for payroll. And then VTech didn't realize that money until 120 days later. We were working for FEMA and the EPA. So it took us, our organization, 120 days to recover that money, but we were paying that all out front. So it's important that you have a good relationship with your bank. It's important that you understand cash flow management and you don't put yourself in financial stress. Remember, I talked about credit cards being dark money. The reason I call that dark money is you don't really realize how much you're spending on your credit cards. You think you have cash available, but it really is an expense. And don't be surprised when you get the credit card bill in and you don't have enough cash to pay for that. You start incurring financial interest against that credit card, and it really can put you in a stress. So credit cards are often caution businesses using credit cards as your only soul of cash flow management. So anyway, that's my encouragement for everyone, is to really understand where your money is coming from. If you're and again, business 30 years ago when I first started was very different than it is today. Virtual business was not in our library. We had to go knock on doors and make cold calls and really find customers that way. Now you can put stuff out free social media wise, and your customers can come in from virtually anywhere in the world. So anyway, it's just a little bit different than when I started. So I encourage all businesses to learn how you're going to make a profit and how to do cash flow management. The Northwest Texas Small Business Development Center is here in Lubbock. There's also one in Abilene. So I took advantage of those resources, and they really helped me to understand cash flow management.
Great information. And ladies, if you are in the Amarillo area, you can contact the Small Business Development Center, and they will also assist you as well. So Kelly, another question for you. Is it harder to get an SBA loan than a regular loan?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate this question because I think there is a lot of hesitation on the part of small business owners when you hear about the SBA, or to be honest, any federal program. First of all, anything outside of the business that you're running is overwhelming. Securing financing, managing your cash flow, doing your financials every month, all of those things are overwhelming because you likely got into your small business for the purpose of your small business, and all of these extras are not necessarily in your wheelhouse. That being said, the SBA programs can sometimes get a little bit of a bad rap, so I'm here to say there are a lot of myths out there with using a program like the SBA 504 program, for example, that are really just not based in reality. A lot that we hear often is, as an SBA 504 lender, is that it's too slow or there's too much red tape. And we hear this both from the small business borrowers and the lenders who are working in the program. And we'll just tell you, there's a few things. First of all, organizations like Caprock Business Finance exist for the sole purpose of taking on that burden. So we're here to move things faster, to take care of the red tape, to take care of the paperwork, so that the small business and the lender who's working with them as well from the bank are not burdened with those things. In my mind, I've spent my entire career working with state and federal agencies, but SBA is one of the easiest to work with. So I'll just put that out there right now. It may seem overwhelming, but I promise it is not that difficult. And if anything, it may actually make your process of securing financing for your small business a little bit easier. And of course, you're probably going to end up with a better rate. So there's a lot of perks. Don't let those hesitations or myths kind of scare you as a small business owner.
So Polly, how often should I look at my financial statement?
I think if you're an online business and you're dealing with stuff being sold, bought and sold every day, you should probably look at that a little bit closer because your expenses are flowing out every day. Your money's coming in every day. So if you're an online type business, I would encourage you to look at it more frequently. If you're a service type organization like us, our bills are sent out and we have net 30. So our money comes in about every 30 days. So our business is much different. Usually I reconcile my bank statement and look at cash flow on a monthly basis. So it kind of depends on what kind of business you're in. A government contracting, like I said, if you're doing a lot of government contracting, your money's going to be slower. It can be 45 to 120 days out. So you just need to understand the type of business you're in and where your money is flowing. So I would say I look at mine at least weekly, but I definitely look at it month ending.
Great information to utilize, ladies. So Kelly, what can I do to improve my chance of getting funded?
So for any small business out there, whether you're looking at conventional financing, a specialty COVID program, the SBA 504 program, which I mentioned, almost all lenders, whether they're government-backed or just a private commercial lender, are going to kind of be looking at the same basic things. We often refer to them as the 5 Cs. That's kind of what we're looking for. And that's going to be credit, both personal and business, your capacity. So, Polly was kind of talking about the ability to cash flow projects while you wait for payments or revenue to come in. And that's, your capacity to actually service the debt and service your working capital needs. Character. So if you're talking about a state or a federal program, things like a felony charge or an issue with law enforcement or a bankruptcy are going to be a determination. It's not a deal breaker, so I'll just say to anybody, don't ever feel like something like that is going to stop you from being able to access a program like that. The most important thing you can do is just be upfront and honest with your lender, and then they'll obviously help you work through what all it takes. Collateral. So if we're dealing with SBA 504, we're going to be talking about commercial real estate as collateral. So in a situation like that, if you build a new building, the bank takes a first lien and the SBA through CapRock would take a second lien. So essentially you've tied up that building in that financing at least until you pay those notes off. So that's collateral, and it's going to need to be worth enough to borrow, obviously. For a program like our SPAG Core, that offers, thresholds where collateral is not so much of an issue. So I mentioned earlier for our COVID program, under $100,000 does not necessarily have a collateral requirement. That's not very common, and obviously it was for COVID relief financing, so I would not expect to go out and seek financing for your small business and not have collateral be an issue. And then conditions, so really thinking about the market conditions. This last year, 18 months was a really tough time to start a new business, but a lot of people did it and were really successful. We helped finance a restaurant and bar, if you can imagine, which had some of the most intense complications by the pandemic of any industry. We helped them launch during the pandemic, and they've done phenomenal. They really worked a lot in it. They had a lot of outdoor dining space. There's just things to think about when, in terms of your market and who you're going to be servicing, that you're going to want to know and identify. I think you both have already mentioned the SBDC, but I would say, it's really important to understand what you're going into business in and be able to put together a good business plan, especially if you're starting from scratch. Even if you're not, I say this all the time, I see so many different industries, but I'm not an expert in any of them. I love nothing more than when a small business owner will tell me what their business does. First of all, it's something new to learn and understand, but also that's where your passion is resonating. That's going to be your best selling feature, is to really be able to explain what you went into business for and what you do. And honestly, even as lenders, we want to hear that too. So those are all good things to work on to improve your chancing for any financing or funding.
Very great information to know. So Polly, we're back to you again. What is the number one mistake small businesses owners make in their bookkeeping? This is where we need everyone to get their pen and paper out and take your notes.
I learned very much the hard way. So definitely it's the software that you use is very important. We use QuickBooks. A lot of people have used FreshBooks and some other type programs. If you have a more complicated business, Peachtree and some of the mid-size type softwares can certainly help. Payroll, not paying your employees properly can get you into a bind. Whether you're working on federal programs, you might have to pay employees different rates of pay based on the type of job that they do. We find that through the Texas Department of Transportation and some of the other industries that we support, city and local governments. You pay people different rates based on the job they're performing. So if you don't pay them correctly according to the rate, you can be subject to penalties and interest for not paying your employees properly. Another mistake to make is to get behind on your quarterly payroll taxes or your federal taxes on a quarterly basis, and then the annual 940 taxes. So be sure that you always have money available for your taxes. I think that's something, if you get behind, penalties and interest compound quickly, and it can really put you in a financial duress. Other mistakes that you can make is not reconciling your bank statement on a monthly basis and letting that get behind on 2 or 3 months out. You might have forgot to put an expense in, and then it shows up suddenly. So anyway, I think small business owners really have a lot coming at them all at once when you first get started. Don't be afraid to reach out to people for help. There's a lot of resources available. The SBA is available. The Small Business Development Center is available. SPAG is available. So please reach out to these resources. That's what they're here for, and they do a fantastic job.
So make sure that we're always utilizing our resources. Some very great information to take and utilize. So Kelly, what is the best way to find local funding opportunities?
Yeah, well, kind of to continue what Polly was saying about using your local resources, I always think the best way to start is right at home. She mentioned our organization, SPAG. We have a sister organization that we're not directly affiliated with, but it exists in the Panhandle as well, the Panhandle Regional Planning Commission. They also have a microloan program. It's not directly related to COVID, but it is for the Panhandle, and if you're a small business owner, they may have something that you need. Also, for our purposes, SPAG and CapRock as one entity really are a good resource to start. We may not be able to start a 504 loan application with your small business if you haven't put all the pieces together. But if you start here, we can refer you to the SBDC to get your business plan, to work on projections. We can help you find a lender if you've never worked with a bank before. There's a lot of resources out there that can be really helpful. The other thing that I think is a real hidden gem, and just about every community in West Texas has them, and that's your local economic development corporation. And I'm not necessarily talking about funding or financing, although some of your larger ones like Lubbock or Amarillo are able to provide some incentives, especially say you're working or going to locate in an area like downtown Lubbock. There may be grants or programs available for you. Or if you're going to settle in a business park, maybe you have a small manufacturing company, there can be some pros and actual financial incentives to working with an EDC in that regard. But the other thing about an economic development corporation is they're going to know the lay of the land for their community, and they're going to want to connect you to resources as well that are local. So I think that's a great place to start that a lot of people don't think of. And of course, kind of in the same vein is going to be a chamber of commerce. Again, that may be more resources and connections, building your network, but that's all very important. And sometimes, like I know the Chamber in Lubbock offers even some insurance programs. So maybe you're ready to start your small business, but you're not quite big enough to put together or figure out a whole insurance policy for all of your employees. That's a resource that's going to be financially beneficial to you. I already stressed this earlier, but I think having a relationship with a bank cannot be understated. We have a lot of great local lenders. You already mentioned, great ones here today helping us out. And I think just developing that relationship with a bank and understanding, especially in their, commercial lending division, understanding your business, you having a relationship with them through the ups and downs, that relationship really can't be understated. So I think those are all really, really important local resources that should be at the top of every small business's list.
Very great information. So Kelly and Polly, we truly thank you and appreciate you all for being on our panel today. Kelly, being a local lender, and Polly, being a local entrepreneur herself, puts a very different spin on funding and cash flow management, since you're both dealing with both of those things firsthand every day. So we're going to go to a few of our Q&A questions. So one that we have is, what funding is available for micro enterprises and small nonprofits truly impacted by the pandemic, whose credit was impacted but isn't in the low income zip code category where the new SBA EIDL loan with the 570 credit score minimum and the targeted supplemental EIDL advances don't apply? Do either one of you ladies have some assistance for that question?
I would recommend, I'm less familiar, I'll be honest, with nonprofits. So for the size of business, if it's a for-profit business, for our core program, there is really no limit. I mean, we've funded, 1099 contractors, small business, but the only employee is the owner. That's really, size is not an issue for our core program if it's for-profit. If it's nonprofit, there are some complications, obviously, just because depending on the initial funding source, there may be some limitations on that. My suggestion, kind of going back, might be an EDC or a chamber to connect you to some local foundations. I think throughout both of our regions, foundations are a good resource and are often a little bit more flexible, so where they can assist a nonprofit. So that's probably my best advice.
Is the SBA loan issued by the local bank but backed by the government?
I will take that as well. That's a great question. I have primarily been speaking about the SBA 504 program. That's what we work with here at CapRock Business Finance. There is the SBA 7A program, and that is only dealt with a bank. So in that program, the 7A program, yes, that is backed by the U.S. government. So that's a whole different program. It's just a small business and a bank, and there's a guarantee there. With the SBA 504 program, I won't get into the weeds, but I will tell you it is not federally or congressionally funded. So the program is actually funded, self-funded through the sale of private bonds. Essentially, the SBA takes all the 504 projects in a single month from throughout the United States and sells them on the private bond market, and that's how they're able to fund the actual loans and secure those really great rates. So there's not actually congressionally funded loans with the 504 program. It's sold through the bond market, so it's a little bit different, which is again why a group like Caprock kind of comes in as that middleman. But yeah.
Kelly, what also is the credit score for the SBA 504 loan?
I saw this one in the chat, and so I tried to respond as well. I don't have a published hard line. I will just tell you that for anything we've seen, we've always recommended to a small business owner, if they have a personal credit score under about 600, and sometimes even above, depending on what's on their credit report. It's not just the score, it's also what's on your credit report. We always recommend providing detailed information. So was there a medical issue? And that can be in the form of a letter. You know, was there a medical issue that you got behind? Did something happen with your house? Did someone lose their job? Did you get behind on student loans? Anything like that. So the more you can provide up front can really mitigate a credit score. Sometimes it may be a situation where you need more people at the table to kind of balance a low credit score. I will mention on our COVID program, personal credit score is not a primary factor. So we're mostly looking at how was the business before COVID and what happened during COVID to impact them and how are they kind of rebounding. So we're focused more on the business with our COVID program.
What type of fees are associated with the SBA loans besides the interest?
Also a great question. I'll speak only to 504 because the 7A program is a lot different. There's kind of two groups, I'll call them groupings of fees that come in. When we publish our all-in interest rate for the SBA 504 program, I quoted 2.8% earlier. That is including a lot of the ongoing fees. So it's really an interest rate plus fees, but it's so low that it sounds like just an interest rate. So we publish that all in. If we do a 504 loan, let's say it's $1 million project and the SBA through Caprock does about $400,000, there probably is going to be anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 worth of SBA fees. That being said, the SBA requires in a 504 project for those fees to be rolled into the financing. So out of pocket, there's not really a lot that the borrower pays at the table. Usually title work, some recording fees, a little bit of legal fees, but otherwise there's not a whole lot in terms of fees that a borrower has to pay out of pocket.
Great. So once again, I do want to thank Kelly and Polly for joining us on today and giving us some valuable information to use for our small businesses. And so that's a wrap of our first panel. We're about to learn more about social media and online marketing, as well as e-commerce from a local business owner and someone coming to us straight from Shopify. So ladies, make sure you have your pen and paper because you're going to want to take these notes.
Thank y'all so much.
So before we jump in, don't forget, as soon as the webinar wraps up, you need to stick around for the live pitch competition. You're going to watch 4 local women business owners pitch to win $7,500. You'll also be able to vote for the People's Choice winner by texting with your phone award AWARD to 37607.
Have you ever opened your closet to see that your favorite sweater was stretched out on the ground or had shoulder bumps? Me too. And after talking to over 300 people, I learned that I wasn't the only one. So as an engineer, I did something about it. I created the Hangyo Hanger, the world's first premium patented bendable hanger that solves those annoying issues that come with regular hangers by our awesome design. You can use our hangers for sweaters, silk tops, and even scarves. Goodbye stress, hello peace of mind. And as we make our way to your closet, I want to remind you to just hang in there.
So we're back. And we're ready for our second and our last panel for today. Christy Martinez-Garcia is a Lubbock native and developed her professional skills working in city government, private business, and the nonprofit industry. In 2006, she founded Latino Lubbock magazine, which averages about 100,000 readers monthly. She is also the founder of Los Hermanos Familia, a nonprofit organization whose objective is strengthening families, building community. Jenneviere Villegas has been involved in commerce for over 15 years, diving into everything from sourcing and manufacturing, operations, pop-up events, retail management, e-commerce, organic social media marketing, and everything in between. At Shopify, she works in merchant engagement in the United States and also has 2 of her own Shopify stores on the side. She's passionate about helping entrepreneurs and brands succeed. Before we begin, don't forget to submit your questions for Q&A in the Q&A feature or wave at Gina or Ray in your live watch party, and they can enter your questions for you. Welcome, ladies. Let's begin our conversation. So, Christy, why is it important to diversify your advertising and marketing?
Well, first of all, I just have to say that I really enjoyed the first presenters, and partially because I think I've utilized every single service that's provided. So, and I know the question is, why should you diversify your marketing and advertising? Well, first of all, you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's my thinking. You really want to make sure that you are getting to know your audience, getting to know the needs of your business, making sure that you're putting something into everything. So you're covering a broad base. I think it's really, really important to do that. So some folks, because I'm in print, they'll say, should I put all my money into just print advertising? And I always discourage that. As a PR professional, I make it a point that they're getting a little bit of print, a little bit of digital, a little bit of radio, maybe some billboards, and then just sharing the message in a broad spectrum. So I think that's very important to diversify your marketing and your advertising.
So, Jenneviere, how can a small business stand out among all the competition right now?
I love this question. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It's been just a pleasure. So I think one of the best ways to stand out is to lean into what makes your brand unique, right? Do the things that only you can do. And sometimes it's about doing what isn't scalable all the time. Like handwritten thank you notes they're easy, they take a little bit of time, but they can really make your business stand out from the crowd. It's interesting because the pace of business is changing so dramatically right now that it's important, sort of like what Christy is saying, it's important to diversify, it's important to take risks, it's important to experiment and really get back in touch with your customers. the future of retail is not about like discounts or promo codes. It's about the connection and the authenticity that you have with your amazing product and your great story with those customers. And I think it's important for you to focus on two things. The first one is you focus on, why am I doing this right now? Why, as an entrepreneur, am I doing this? What is my passion? And then two, who am I serving? And how can I make sure that the human on the other side of that dressing room door or your cash wrap or that online checkout has an amazing human experience from your brand?
Very great information. So Christy, which social media platform is the best for a small business?
Well, there's so much variety right now. You could literally go out and find so many things. But for my business, because, especially during the pandemic, came really, really handy, and that was Facebook and Instagram. First of all, people I have found really like images. They love to see pictures. They want to see just nice creative art. So for my business, Facebook and Instagram are the best social media platforms. And, because I cater to a very large Hispanic audience, I found that these two are some of the most popular platforms for my audience. So you have to really get to know who's following you, what do they want, what are their needs, what are their ages, and you can find all that through those different programs. But there's such a variety, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those. But for me, like I said, I would definitely encourage folks to do Facebook and Instagram and really get to know it, because there's lots of facets of Facebook. I mean, you can even run advertising in there, and you can do live video. And during the pandemic, I did a lot of Latino Lubbock Live, and it became this thing, and we did interviews, and it was really, really good. So get creative with your social media platforms and seek what is going to work best for you.
Great information. So remember, ladies, get creative. So our next question, Jenneviere, do brick and mortars still have a role to play?
You know what? The short answer is absolutely. Absolutely, they still have a role to play. In fact, they might even play an even bigger role now, especially after 18 months of isolation. We humans are craving our pack. We're craving that social experience, and it's a wonderful time for store owners to really revision what a brick and mortar experience looks like. It doesn't have to be straight selling, right? You can do experiments. You can have an experiential store where you're educating your customers. There's actually there's a company called Nomad Girls in Dallas, and they use their HQ as like a showroom. They're not even really selling out of there. It's just for their customers to come and touch and feel their product before they buy online. I think shoppers, that's what they want, right? Shoppers want to be able to experience a thing before they buy it, even if what they're doing is going to your house and buying it online, or they're buying online and picking up in the store, which is a great sort of pivot that we've seen during the COVID, pandemic time. Is these really interesting ways that business owners are keeping their customers and their staff safe while also being able to utilize that in-person experience.
Very good information. So, Christy, why is it important for owners to be aware of cultural competency and the need to attract diverse audiences in social media?
Well, again, we've talked a little bit about how there's so much growth happening with the Hispanic community. I'm going to use this as an example. Right now in Lubbock, the Lubbock area, the population of Hispanics is about 36% Hispanic. That being said, you really need to know what are their likes, what are their interests. I think that when you do that kind of stuff, it helps you to navigate and really serve that population. But if you've looked at marketing, there's a big changing face of marketing, and I think that's really important. I think sometimes businesses, they focus on just the green and how much money they're going to make, but if they want to make more money, you really need to know that you have a Hispanic reach, or that you have a African American or Asian or women, or just different demographics, but really understand what cultural competency is, first of all. And that is going beyond what you just think you know. So understand this population, be sensitive, be aware of it. It's so important, especially in today's marketing efforts where, you know, we've seen so many changes. And I think that's a very positive thing. Just get to know the audience. We talk about that. We stress that. And in everything that we do, we make sure that we're putting it into action. So one of the things that I can tell you about my audience, besides the fact that the largest part is Hispanic female, I also have Anglo and Asian and the Black community reading my publication, and that really makes me proud. And so we really work to make sure that we're offering and filling all those needs.
What a great way to create community too, Christy. Like, what a great way, awesome way to show your communities that you care enough to reach out to them in the language they speak and actually, you know, to take the time to get to know them as humans.
And our publication's bilingual. And one of the things in our mission statement is that we use this as a way to create dialogue. And, you know, when you're trying to get to know new clients and customers, get to know what they're reading or their interests are. And that's what we do, put a lot of effort in making sure that we are connected and we have the pulse of the people that everyone else can also embrace.
Great information from both of you ladies. So Jenneviere, how did COVID change e-commerce?
Ooh, that's $1 million question, huh? We
Yes.
could like spend a whole 2 hours just on that bit, but I will not do that in the interest of everyone's time and energy. So from a Shopify perspective, in 2020, we saw a new store creation on Shopify went up by 79% in the US alone. So we saw people realizing that if they weren't online already with their store, they needed to get there yesterday. And people who suddenly found themselves very unfortunately without employment anymore were able to take that leap and try entrepreneurship because they had nothing to do but sit home and not work. So might as well put that energy into something, right? And what Shopify and other e-commerce platforms do, or commerce platforms do, is help democratize commerce in general, right? We level the playing field by making it accessible to all sorts of people. Let's see, other things. So as I corrected myself, we're moving away from calling it e-commerce because we're talking about commerce in general. And one of the things you're going to hear me say a little bit later on as well is this idea of omnichannel. And I think it's worth noting that like, this is the perfect time for omnichannel. Omnichannel just means that you have maybe an online store, maybe you've got your brick and mortar, you're selling on places like Pinterest and TikTok and Facebook, you know, those social media platforms that work for you, that are right for your customer, meeting your customer where they are. You can use those to sell, or they don't even have to leave that platform in order to buy from you, right? So omnichannel is going to be big. I think our president Harley said it recently. He said, in a few years, when we say omnichannel, it's going to be like saying color television. Like that's assumed. We're going to be assuming omnichannel for everything going forward. Also, we discovered during COVID that people really want to shop local and support those local businesses. So, you know, for Shopify, we have something called the Shop app, and you can you don't have to be a Shopify merchant to use it. In fact, as a buyer, you want to use this to discover local businesses that you can purchase from. Some of them will utilize other things that we discovered in COVID, like that buy online, pick up in store. Some of them will be utilizing curbside pickup. But the Shop app really gives you discoverability. And people, we found people just really want to help their local businesses succeed. So that was something that we discovered as well. And then, like I said, the curbside pickup, local delivery also became a huge thing during COVID. The ability for local merchants who are selling locally to be able to deliver those items keeps their customers safe, keeps their team safe, and helps them sell more.
So very good information. Ladies, make sure that you're taking your notes as we go along or posting your questions in the Q&A. So Christy, how many social media platforms should a business be active on?
I would say all of them, but you really can't, unfortunately. So my recommendation is at least 3 or 4 For us, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are ideal platforms based on the demographics of my business compared to the users, which include age, gender, and ethnicity. And something that I tell a lot of my clients is make sure that you're utilizing all these tools, integrate them. For example, on our website, we're able to send or place a press release, and then we're able to share it in one click to all of our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as LinkedIn followers. So it really serves a really good purpose. But the thing is that they can be time consuming. And so you have to be really committed to social media, because I mean, it is a constant thing that you have to work with. And something that I always tell people is, of course, it's ideal to hire somebody, but you can even get an intern to help you. These young minds seem to have a lot of creativity and whatnot, but also make sure that you are updating and including some really good art that really brands your business, because that is also very important. You don't want to just put generic photos on them. You want to use photos that also include your logo, or ads that are designed that include your logo and are really branding your business.
There are some really great free tools out there too to help you do that. You can take a stock photo and go into a web page like Canva, canva.com, and add your logo, to it, add some text splash to make it more your own, and then, download it to use for your social channels.
Absolutely. And if you are going to use art, make sure that it's the right size. A lot of things also, or things that I encourage, are ping. When you create, like earlier, everybody got to see my PDF file. Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened, but so you want to make sure that you include art that is also going to be very user-friendly on these platforms.
Yeah, and I don't work for Canva. Obviously, I just use it as a store owner myself and for my own social media. It's so good. It's so powerful. And one of the greatest things about it is it has those presets for you. So if you're making a header for your Facebook page, it knows the dimensions that Facebook wants to optimize that. If you're making an Instagram post or stories, it can also optimize that for you. And if you get the paid version, it'll resize them for you automatically. So you create one piece of art and then it just pumps them out for all of your social channels.
But you do have to be careful, because if you use templates that everybody else is using, then you're not unique anymore. So
yes. Change those colors up.
Yes.
I love it, ladies, and I love the interaction with our questions. So Jenneviere, what are key things to think about when considering adding an online option to a brick and mortar brand?
Yeah, so I think, as I've already discussed sort of ad nauseum, we saw people hopping online from brick and mortar when the pandemic hit, because it just made good sense. And for some of them, it's how they had to survive, right? I think we're coming back to this idea of knowing your customers. If you have a brick and mortar store, you probably have a really great idea of what your who your customer profiles are, right? You know who wants to buy your things. And so using an online store, you can either supplement that to get new shoppers that maybe wouldn't necessarily walk by your brick and mortar. You can also use it to supplement, just like you can sell worldwide 24 hours a day on an online store, right? You don't have to have some staff in there. You don't have the overhead of rent. So it's just about figuring out, does it make sense for you? And you don't have to have it be a one-to-one replica of your brick and mortar, right? Like I know some cafes that when they shut down, obviously they couldn't sell coffee like in a cup to me anymore. So what they did was they pivoted and listed their coffee beans in 1-pound bags that they could ship. They can't replicate the in-person coffee shop experience in an online store, but they can still supplement that income by selling those things that make sense. Another great option is that if you can use things like print-on-demand companies. So you send them your artwork, they only print t-shirt or a dress or whatever when your customer purchases it, and then they send it straight to your customer for you. So you're not warehousing any goods. The overhead is very low. You only pay that company when your customer purchases from them. So it's interesting to sort of like wrap your brain around not just taking your brick and mortar store and trying to make it into an online store like a cookie cutter, but how does that online experience make sense with your retail experience? I also think, like, to piggyback on some of the social media stuff that Christy's been talking about, using your social media to supplement your online store and not just selling on social media. Creating community on social media is sometimes the best thing. Like I talked about Nomad Girls a little bit earlier as well. They use their Instagram to show people recipes and like how to use the grills that they sell to make amazing food. So they're not necessarily selling on Instagram. They're not even really necessarily marketing on Instagram, but they have a ton of community engagement, which is really like helping to build their brand as a whole. And I think, again, we're going to talk about omnichannel. This is what omnichannel is, right? It's taking a brick and mortar store and adding other channels to it. So I think it's a great opportunity with a fairly low risk level if you have the planning in place. Yes, Ashton Printful. That's what I use for one of my stores, in fact. Printful's a great company. I love them.
Yeah, there's so much technology with, you know, what you were talking about, brick and mortar. I started navigating my own business and I found that we were doing more, we were losing foot traffic. And this happened right before the pandemic. And we were seeing that growth happening with our online stuff. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So do either of you use different websites to sell and or social media platforms to reach customers from different cultures?
Absolutely. I mean, there's different things out there, but, you know, I think you have to create your own space. And one of the things that, you know, I know the question that we were going to ask also is about the social media platforms and how they can help you grow your business. And there is a small percentage of the audience that reaches the same target audience for my business. There could be potential in TikTok. However, you know, it requires a lot of active use and doesn't connect with some of the content scheduling platforms at the moment. So it's more time consuming and it requires a lot of creative content, where this is where you could use Canva. And because there's some opportunities, but you know, nowadays you can really just use a cell phone and create videos and whatnot. But TikTok has become such a popular thing. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. And so that's been a little bit of a hindrance for us. You know, when we start something, I want to make sure that you can be consistent. As a business, I think that's really, really important as well.
TikTok is such an untapped market right now. Like TikTok right now is what Snapchat was a couple of years ago, where it's hugely popular. The algorithm is still pretty much untouched as far as like people figuring out how to like backward engineer the algorithm and like, you know, scam it a little bit. And like the reach is huge. The potential reach is huge. And I think that that's actually a really great way to sell to different cultures. Like I know that I have a ton of friends who follow indigenous TikTokers. Like they're learning so much about the indigenous culture from these amazing creators creating things on TikTok. So I think it's a great way to reach out. Also to your point, Christy, yes, it takes time. But one of the things I've seen a lot of interesting traction with has been people, you know, essentially creating TikTok influencers. Finding somebody on TikTok or a few people on TikTok who follow the same kinds of things you do. Maybe you're a beauty brand, and like finding those TikTokers who are creating content and sending them some product for free. And, you know, like you can either message them and say, hey, I hope you like it. Maybe you'll do a TikTok on it. You can just, you know, give it to them and hope that they do the thing. But I think it's a really interesting way to get your product out there and get that brand recognition from somebody who's not being paid even to do it.
But you do have to be careful with that, because then you start promoting somebody else and you lose sight of your own business. And
yep, you got to keep that brand in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, your business has to be at the forefront.
Okay, so ladies, we're going to go ahead and go into our Q&A questions. How can you track marketing spending ROI? Are there any programs to track that information?
Do you want to take this, Christy? I have some thoughts, but if you want to jump in.
Well, you know, I think it's depending on the needs of your business at the time. And I mean, if you're going to be using Facebook, there's so many opportunities there. And, you know, because you can kind of see if you're putting information out, you're going to see a lot of height in people reading and getting connected with you. And if not, well, there's an opportunity there. Because we talked about so many different social media and different programs, something that I really encourage. I know we have seen this growth in QR codes, but we've also seen stuff happening with calendars and with websites. So, I mean, we saw a 600% increase in our website during the beginning of the pandemic. It just kept on growing, and that we had to make some modifications. And so now we're also, we had subscriptions. We took that away, and we found that this has really also built our name. And so we're really utilizing that type of tools that exist out in the community, or out in the technology committee.
I think, it depends on what platform you're using too, right? Like if you're using Facebook Ads Manager, you'll see your ROA there. You'll see like the cost per acquisition, there's the cost per click. You can see how much you've spent. You can see how much your customers have spent in relationship to the ad they followed, because it's tracking via the pixel, which is all essentially magic as far as I'm concerned. I just say the words. I don't know exactly how it works. But there's also, Instagram is attached to that same ad manager. You can use Google Analytics, which is a free tool to track like what you're spending in marketing and how it's resulting in purchases from your site, that kind of thing. So it just depends on where you're selling, I think.
Yeah. I saw a Q&A or a question about Nextdoor, and somebody put it's older and a lot more active users, but unfortunately it's still not picking up, and it is directed for neighborhood associations and the neighbors. But I think because it's not real, it's still not as popular as it can be, but it is a good tool. I noticed Jen put something about that on there.
I think that's regional too. I think that there are regions of the country that utilize Nextdoor in a different way, much like there are regions of the country that utilize Yelp in a different way. I'm from the Bay Area. I'm in San Francisco right now, and Californians use Yelp for everything, like literally everything. Everybody's got a Yelp. Everyone, like, that's the first place they go. So I think it depends on where you're at. And again, it goes back to know your customers and choose the few platforms that work for you. And you can test them out too. You can spend a little bit of money here and there and figure out, like, A/B test, figure out what works for you, and then ditch the ones that aren't, and go full steam ahead with the ones that are.
And one thing that you get to learn these types of things as you're working with folks, like the Hispanic community. About 96% of Hispanics own a cell phone, and so they don't always have access to Wi-Fi, but with a cell phone, that was another way that we were able to connect. So I think that's those types of things of cultural competency and understanding your market really make a difference when you're trying to brand your business.
When you say cell phones, do you mean like SMS messaging for like your marketing?
You can do that, but just phones at large, because they have that capability of sending or having the access to Wi-Fi, which
I see.
Yeah, we don't always have, and thank goodness for some of the programs that were put out during the pandemic that also gave families an opportunity for access to Wi-Fi. So, a discounted rate anyway. But I really tell people, get to know that audience, because it could make the difference in how much you're spending, and also getting to know the potential market and different social media avenues and whatnot.
So we have several more Q&As. We'll quickly run through those. So marketing is so wide. What about time management? How much time should you spend daily, weekly, monthly, and should you be scheduling?
Absolutely, you should be scheduling. One thing that I have found is that you should be doing something, at least if you're doing Facebook, at least on the hour, and at least an hour each day. Or I like to, for us, we try to get as much information. We're in the news business, so that's something that we have to do. And also you want to put more cross-posting content, so that your content can go from blog to Facebook or Twitter, and that does save a little bit of time as well. So that's something that I would encourage. But make sure that you are consistent, because once you start to, snooze, then you'll see that you'll start to lose some folks from following you. So make sure that you are consistent.
That cadence is so important. Whether your cadence is once a month or once a day, whatever it is, keep that consistency. I also think it does depend on your brand and your audience. Like if you're not the kind of brand that's going to post every single day to Facebook, then don't do it. You don't have to be. It really depends on you. And again, going back to knowing your customers and knowing the tool that you're using. Like Instagram, they want you to be active on there to get you in their algorithm, once a day. So if you're planning to use Instagram for your marketing, you got to spend that time. But only you can decide how much time is the right time for your brand.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll ask one more Q&A this round, and then the others we will ask in the final Q&A. So this one is for Jenneviere. What are your top 3 Shopify app suggestions for retail Shopify?
Man, great question. It's going to be so hard to pick 3 for retail Shopify stores. For retail, I'm guessing you mean Jasmine. I'm guessing you mean like in like IRL, in real life retail Shopify stores. For that, I would say probably, Shopify point of sale, first and foremost. Run your POS through Shopify. It'll connect with your online inventory as well. So it's like a one-stop shop. I have it on my phone. It works great. What else would I suggest for a retail store? So we have a whole apps marketplace, and our ecosystem with those apps is like, it's enormous. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of apps. And I get why this is an important question for you, because sometimes you get option paralysis when you're in the marketplace and trying to figure out what's best. I would probably say, let's see, shop point of sale, get on the Shop app so that you're locally discoverable by buyers. The Shop app also alerts them when you put new items in your store. So I can open up my Shop app and see, my favorite candle store just add a new scent. I am definitely buying that right now. I will go pick it up curbside. And then I'd probably say I would grab something for reviews, because that customer review, we're back to Yelp, is a really great way for your brand to get the recognition from the greater public. So I like stamped.io. It's a free one. It's the one that I use in one of my stores. And I can set it to automatically send out the email that asks my buyer, once their item has been received by them, to say like, hey, we hope you loved it. If you didn't, please contact me so I can make it right. And if you did, we'd love for you to leave us a review, because they're super helpful for our small business.
So I would like to greatly thank Christy and Jenneviere for being with us today and giving us so many ideas and input for our businesses. Social media is ever changing, and it's reassuring to get tips from someone who is keeping up with those changes and knows how they affect our small businesses. We've all made many transitions during COVID, and one was learning that for those of us in retail, getting our products online was no longer optional. So I took away some great tips myself from this panel, and I hope others did the same.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, ladies,
so
for
much,
joining
everyone.
us. So don't forget, the live pitch is almost here, and you get to vote. You can join in on the fun by texting. Get your cell phones out. Text award, AWARD, to 37607. That's AWARD to 37607 to sign up to vote. Now here's another preview of what's coming your way.
Hi, I'm Marcy Ray with Marcella Furs and Leather. During the pandemic, we had to transform ourselves in order to survive. And out of a great desire for community, we carved out a space within our store called Papillon Knittery, where we carry high quality yarns and tools. And the result has been nothing short of magic. What we're seeing now are groups of artisans coming together of all ages. Our youngest is 9, our oldest is 93, and we're seeing the generations come together and learn from one another. And we've been so blessed to be a part of it.
So now we are going to go ahead and we're going to go into our all panel Q&A. So all the ladies will come back on the screen. You all submitted lots of great questions today for the panelists, so we're going to take a few minutes to bring everyone back and answer more of your questions. One question says that, how should a nonprofit approach creating an email marketing campaign that updates and prompts engagement in one email or social media flyer?
I'd like to take that question since I also have a nonprofit.
Yes.
One of the tools that I highly recommend is Constant Contact. It can be a little bit expensive, but they do offer a discount for nonprofits. So you can create your whatever campaign that you're trying to get out there. You can repeat it, and you can also make it where it's interactive. But it is a really great tool because it allows you to reach a very large number of people. Of course, you create the mailing list, and you invite people to subscribe and to get on there with you. But it is a very, very good tool that I highly recommend.
Anyone else have any information to add to that question?
I'll pipe up and say that in addition to finding the right tool, make sure that you're curating your email lists. You don't want to have a bunch of non-responsive emails. Some people think like more is always better. And in regards to email marketing lists, if somebody hasn't opened an email for 6 months, they're probably not interested, and take them off your list so that you're getting better results with your sends.
Good information. So one person says they've been seeing a lot of mistakes and backlash in social media. So if you have a faux pas or mistake, how would you recommend making things right? Yep, etc.
Do you want me to take that too?
I can hop into that one. I think that it's important to show actual apologetic actions. You know, like be upfront with what you got wrong. Be upfront with how you're going to change in the future so that you're not going to get that wrong in the future. And then ask people to hold you accountable and call it out if they see it again, because that's how we learn. But I think being actually like empathetically apologetic is the only way to go when it comes to faux pas online.
And one thing is, you know, obviously you have a hide option on comments, but it should be used sparingly. You need to have comments addressed and redirected to Messenger when possible to address concerns on a more one-on-one level. And I think somebody said there's nothing like that one-on-one connection. And so I think that's really important, is to reach out, but be careful, because, you know, that can create a whole nother Pandora's box. So make sure that, you know, you just get that direct contact immediately.
So here's one for either Polly or Kelly or both. How can you start building a relationship with your local bank? How can you find a good CPA? And what questions should you be asking as a business owner?
Polly, I was going to say, I don't know if you wanted to go first. From your actual perspective as a business owner, from the perspective of a lender, I would say it's always best to start local in your community. Your community knows the local economy, and they know what's going on. And every community between Lubbock and Amarillo has a good local bank that understands what's going on. And I think it should be just exactly that, like you would interview for any other services. You know, go in and try to build a relationship. I think some banks are pretty upfront with, you know, they may or may not be interested in your industry, and some may be specially geared towards that industry. But I would think starting local is the best way to start. In terms of a CPA and good questions, I do think that's probably better suited for Polly. She's probably had to ask that before. But I will just say, you know, almost any CPA probably has small businesses. Any firm in, you know, some of our larger communities probably has small businesses in their portfolio. But that's a question I would start with is, you know, how many small businesses do you have in your portfolio? And are you aware of, you know, the specialty issues that come up in tax preparation or even financial reports for an industry like mine. And I think that's a great way to start that relationship. And normally your bank or your other friends, this kind of goes back to the coordinating in your chamber or your local EDC groups, they're going to tell you who they've liked and who they haven't liked. So I think those word of mouth references are really important.
I can't hear you, Polly. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, appreciate that. I think we're spoiled here in West Texas. West Texans are relationship type people, and we all rely very heavily on the relationships and network. We're very friendly and we're very open. And if you just have a question in small business, ask your neighboring small businesses around you. They will certainly help and guide and direct you. 9 of the banks in West Texas were picked as the top 100 banks in the United States. So we have some great lenders here. We work with them a lot on phase 1 environmental site assessments. So we're kind of spoiled in that we know a lot of them, but they're all willing to help us. And we've had a great opportunity to work with a lot of the banks here in Lubbock and Amarillo and Midland. So anyway, it's a great area to work with the local banks.
So Polly, another question for you. How much cash reserves should a business carry?
We typically carry 3 years of cash reserves. Most businesses aren't able to do that, maybe 3 months. But we have stockpiled a large volume of money to cover some of our EPA responses. We get into a large cash flow up front. We're waiting 120 days for our money. So our position is a little bit different than others. We have to keep a larger amount of cash on hand to support a disaster response when it happens. So we'll get called out at any time of day, 24/7. So we have to be ready, and our cash reserves are extremely important. So we're not like every other business. I don't want you to think that we are. We're very unique in that we have to do disaster response. We have to respond to any of the EPA Region 6 areas. We've even supported responses in California when the Paradise fires happened. So our cash reserves are much different than most businesses.
Okay. So we have a question from Stacy, and maybe you ladies can give her some advice. She has a very small mobile ultrasound business, and it's been suspended for 18 months due to COVID. Are there ways that she can market or revive that business?
I think as far as marketing, I would start to look at just being present again, right? Even if you can't welcome patients in, you can still be reaching out to them. Maybe you can create some blog content about how, they can stay safe as we continue on, this next leg of the COVID journey. And just make sure that they know that you're still around, right? Like knowing that you're still there. And even, you might get some people who reach out to say like, hey, look, I know you haven't been able to have any patients. How can I support you? How can I help you survive whatever's left of this dry spell for you? And you might be surprised at the number of people who are just like in your corner and ready to help.
Definitely you want to create that online following, but you want to be consistent and creative with the content. I think that showcases your product, especially something as unique as what you do. And it also creates an interest. So I think right now, during the pandemic, we revamped a lot of our artwork. We just did a lot because we had a little bit of time. So, utilize that time and just start building up, because I think, everything's coming back eventually. So, have stuff ready for when it does, but start building those relationships in a creative way.
Yeah, I actually just posted
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I'll just go quickly. I just posted a blog post in the chat, actually, that actually might give you some interesting ideas. It's focusing on 3 Dallas area retail businesses and how they persevere. And you might just brainstorm about, like, how could this apply to my business? That kind of thing.
And I like what Amy Wood put about planning a brand relaunch strategy. And definitely she could help with that.
We've had a lot of success marketing other businesses other than ourselves. So it's good to have a different audience come online and support your business. Even though you may not be active during the COVID period, It doesn't mean that you can't connect socially with other businesses coming into your organization, and you spotlighting or feature them as well. So it's just a great opportunity to showcase your support of other local businesses. Continue to communicate with your audience.
Great. Someone sells online items, and what are some marketing strategies they should use to promote and to be able to gain customs, such as gift baskets and baked goods? So they've dabbled kind of in both.
I would say from our perspective, a thank you gift or being able to provide that as a thank you for doing business with us. Those are great ways to get your business out there. So offer your product to another organization as a thank you gift. And if it's received well, your business is going to grow exponentially because your name is getting out there quickly. So it's a great way to do brand collaboration and to share.
And something that we've tried to do is, if that baker that's now selling cookies, we've bought cookies to give to our volunteers or, to our clients. We're trying to utilize the businesses that we work with, and kind of promote each other. And it's kind of win-win. So I think that's been a big help for all of us.
So we've had fantastic panelists on today. I'd like to personally thank the webinar so much to Kelly, Polly, Christy, and Jenneviere for taking your time on today to join us and giving us some awesome information for our small businesses. And so I appreciate each of you for hearing me today and allowing me to be the moderator. Now it's time for the live pitch competition.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
As Amy rejoins us, here's a final look at what's to come. And don't forget to sign up to vote. So get your phones and sign up to vote by texting 37607 to award. AWARD.
Let's talk pivot. Well, first it's about an amazing staff. When you engage your staff, they believe that Raw 1899 is their business.
And they do. We also increased our presence on social media, posting fabulous, unique menu items, happy hour, and at the same time promoting over 400 artists.
And we've been very involved with our community, supporting them, and in turn, they've supported us.
I just want to say what a great two panels we've had. I want to also let you know that our Viewer's Choice Award is active. It's time to vote. Text A for Flint Avenue, text B for Hangio, text C for Marcelo Furs, and text D for Raw 1899. And so please start that voting as we enter into our pitch competition of the webinar series. The Women-Owned Business Pitch competition today is made possible by our partners, the Beacon State Fund, and our platinum sponsor, Sempra. Thank you, Sempra, for the extreme generosity and support of the Beacon State Fund and the Governor's Commission for Women. Today, we will hear from 4 West Texas women-owned small businesses who had to make pivot or changes to their business model to survive during the pandemic. We understand the significant economic impact endured by small businesses during the pandemic, and we are in awe of all the women business owners across the state of Texas for their resilience, problem solving, and creative skills. Before we hear from our finalists, I would like to quickly introduce our panel of judges. Natalie Parker, who is a dear friend of mine. She is the vice chairman of the Governor's Commission for Women. She is also the co-owner of Round Rock and CEO of KLP Construction Supply. Alejandro, I want to make sure I pronounce his last name correctly. Meganignas, which I still didn't say correctly, but he's also a dear friend of mine. He is a founder and CEO of Learn Lounges Games. And Kimberly Graham, Associate Vice President, Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Texas Tech University. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Each finalist will have 3 minutes to pitch the changes and pivots they had to make during the pandemic. Each judge will have an opportunity to ask one question. Once all finalists have presented, the judges will take a moment to submit final scores, and a winner will be announced today. So our first pitch competition is Amy Wood, CEO of Flint Avenue in Lubbock. As we wait for Amy to come on, we just want to make sure that you know that voting is active right now, so make sure that you vote for your Viewer's Choice Award.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome, thank you. It looks like we had a little technical glitch. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity, first of all, to be here. And I just want to say thank you for all the information that we just learned from Shopify and Latino Lubbock, and oh my gosh, just so much. So when I started Flint Avenue marketing, marketing was print, websites, social media, and all of our packages sort of looked like that. We encouraged a digital presence we've been doing that for years, right? We've heard you need a website, you need social media. Everybody's heard that forever and ever. But what 2020 did was force us into that place, right? So companies that didn't have those digital presences, or maybe they had a weak digital presence or really didn't understand how to get traffic actually to what they were trying to say and do online, they needed something that was a little more sophisticated. And so what 2020 did for us was helped us shift those strategies for our small businesses. I'm Amy Wood, and I'm the CEO and the founder of Flint Avenue Marketing, Technology, and Training. And so over the last year, what happened with our company is that we went from offering creative services, primarily Flint Avenue Marketing, and doing a bit of design for wireframing for mobile apps and things like that. And then in January, we launched FamTech, which is a technology division that marries technology like marketing automation, software integration, custom mobile app development together with marketing strategy. And then we brought in a training piece so that we could actually teach these small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and even enterprise level businesses how to utilize all of these new tools and get them to work together, right? Synergistically, so that we don't just have this one lone voice out in, Facebook land saying something that isn't getting the attention. I think Christy in the previous panel mentioned how important a cross-platform strategy is, and that's exactly what we do. We tie it all together into one place, and that's one of the things that makes Flint Avenue really differentiated. Another thing that happened during 2020 for us was that we recognized, just like Jenneviere with Shopify, that our small businesses did not have the technology to compete with the big stores. A coffee shop on the corner of Lubbock, Texas, does not have the same technology advancement as a Starbucks. So staying competitive when the world shuts down, when they don't have a mobile app, is really difficult. And so what we did is we invested during 2020. We invested in templated apps so that we could provide a small business app solution to every small business everywhere in the US. And so that's one of our goals right now. We have a goal of having 100 small businesses funded with a mobile app that is their very own, downloaded from their favorite app store, and in their customers' hands, because now they can send push notifications right to them. They can do geotagging. They can do
Amy,
reward programs.
sorry to interrupt you, but your 3 minutes is up.
Awesome.
Don't mean to be rude. I'm so sorry.
That's
I hate interrupting
fine.
people, but thank you so much and good luck to you.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Hi, Amy. Kim here. Great presentation. My question is, you didn't mention this in your pitch, but in your submission, you talked about a remote work guide. Can you help us understand what that was and how that maybe has helped your business and other small businesses?
Definitely. Yes. Thanks for asking about that. So when we first got the mandate to work, everything was kind of shut down for a moment in March last year. We noticed people were kind of panicking because business operations can't stop, right? Things have to keep moving. And so a lot of companies that had worked in person now needed to figure out how to work remotely. Our teams at Flint Avenue have worked remotely for 20 plus years, even though our company is only about 6 years old. We've worked remotely forever. So the first thing we did was we got to help. We know this stuff. So we published a remote work guide, and then we shared that for free to anybody who needed it. We still have it available if you need a copy. And then we also gave that type of training through our local Chamber of Commerce and with other small businesses just to help them navigate managing remote teams, how to set up for success, all the things.
Thank you, Amy. We have time for one more question.
Hi, Amy. Great job on your business. I know I own a small business, so I know how necessary and needed that shift is. And so well done. My question is, if you were to win the $7,500, what would you do with it? Where would it go?
Good question. Thank you for that. So we started last year building an app for veterans to communicate with each other in times of crisis. And so it's called the Battle Buddies app. And basically what happens whenever you're in a crisis mental health situation is that there's a few outlets, the VA, or there is the suicide hotline. A retired Marine is probably not going to call the suicide hotline. They're just not programmed to do that. So we had a couple of other veterans reach out to us with this idea. We built the wireframe for them, and we're trying to get it funded. So if we win this money, it goes directly to building the Battle Buddies app and trying to get some help to our military for their mental health and provide them with a tool where they can connect with each other and reduce the 22 suicides a day that are happening right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy Wood. We appreciate you being here today and presenting. And so we're going to ask you to log off now at this time, and we'll get ready for our second pitch competition.
Thank you.
So don't forget to go ahead and text for our Viewer's Choice Award. And our second pitch competition is for IO Igi. They're the CEO and founder of Hangio. And so we will wait for them to come on. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. I know that's important. Yes, please go ahead.
The Hangio hanger, the world's first premium bendable hanger that allows you to bend your hanger in 6 ways so that way it can conform exactly to the shape of your garment. So you can use it for a scarf, sweater. Our patented product retails for $39.99 for a pack of 3. And Last year, we launched our product. Our original strategy was to go fully retail. However, with the closures and the uncertainties with COVID last year, we pivoted from a retail to a fully e-commerce strategy, where we had to learn the ins and outs of operating an online store, and we also had to update our packaging to adapt to e-commerce needs. The pivot really forced us to innovate. We offered free shipping to our customers that first week. We utilized our social media platforms, and we won over new customers through press from Fast Company and Mashable. And despite the challenges that we experienced, we sold out within 72 hours of our initial rollout. We shared our solution on Twitter, and it went viral globally, seen by over 6 million people. And we have a growing waitlist of over 300 people currently. And so our pivot really allowed us to reach a larger audience online. It allows us to sell to new customers all over the country and learn about new markets that we didn't even think about, and thereby grow our demand. So through working on fulfilling that demand this year, we anticipate the number of our hangers that we distribute out to grow, and thereby our manufacturing jobs, which are all done in the US, to double. And that's why I'm here today. So we will immediately invest into inventory, and we will be able to double your investment in 2 weeks through direct sales. We are really taking on this almost $13 billion home organization industry by storm. And we're doing that through excessive passion, experienced advisors, and through intentionally listening to our customers at every step of the way. My name is Ayo, CEO of Hangio and recent Texas Tech alum. And as we make our way to your closet, I want to remind you to just hang in there. Thank you. And I want to open up the floor to any questions or comments.
Where's your manufacturing done?
It's all done here in Texas. And we source all of it here. Yes.
You source all the materials
from suppliers in the US.
Okay.
You mentioned you sold out in the 3 days. How many units were the sellout, meaning, right? And then you mentioned the 75, the money will help you go into inventory or more. So how many units did you sell out the first 3 days? And how many units does the inventory will help you, the funds coming in will help you get more so you can sell that out as well?
Great question. So we sold about 90 hangers in that first 3 days, and we didn't have any paid advertising or anything. It was just direct through social media and our email marketing. And then for our next round, we're planning on purchasing 1,000 hangers, and that purchase order will cost about $8,000. And so that's like fully what we'll invest that inventory into. And with that purchase, it'll allow us to fulfill our wait list and also just the incoming demand that we're seeing.
How many employees do you have?
I'm a team of one, and then I also have a team of advisors, and then I have also a company that I work with for our product development and our manufacturing. So that has a team of engineers, of mechanical engineers.
Do we have any more questions from our judges?
Kimberly, you're on mute somehow.
We still can't hear you.
I have a question while interrupt me, Kimberly, if you can, if we can hear you. Do you own the patent?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Kimberly, we're going to give you one more try, and if not, we're going to have to move on. I'm so sorry.
Is it possible to chat it?
That's okay. So thank you, Ayo. We appreciate your time today, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And so now we're going to welcome Marcy Ray. She's the president and manager of Marcella Furs and Leather in Amarillo. As we wait for her to come on, please make sure that you vote for your People's Choice Award that is live and active right now. So as we're waiting for Marcy to come in, Alejandro, how do we pronounce your last name again? I'm so sorry. I should know it by now.
Magallanes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can give her just a few more minutes or a few more seconds. These webinars are amazing, but sometimes we all do have technical difficulties. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to see, we'll try to circle back to Marcy. She may be having technical difficulties. So our fourth pitch competition is Lisa Curry and Nathania Cox. They're the co-owners of Raw 1899, and they're from San Angelo. So hopefully they can come on and give us their pitch.
Hi, guys.
Hello. So just remember, you have 3 minutes, and we're going to start now.
I'm Lisa Curry.
And I'm Nathania Cox.
And we are co-owners of Raw 1899. We are a very unique space. We feature local artists as well as out-of-town artists. We have a beautiful bar where we have over 100 wines. We serve beer, and we also have high-end appetizers. So, Thana, let's discuss some things that we did during
Absolutely
trying times.
One of the things we focused on was our staff. We have an amazing staff and crew that we believe in 100%. We met several times on staff training, product knowledge. We took advantage of the PPP loan so we could continue to pay our staff, offering them the opportunities to clean, organize, whatever we needed to do to make sure that they were making their livelihoods. By focusing on trying to be better, we knew that when we opened, we would open up stronger, and we did.
Yeah. And we also took time for ourselves, doing online classes. We're artists as well, and we were able to produce quite a bit of art so that when we opened, we also had more product to present. We did take advantage of several things that were thrown our way from the Small Business Development Center. We leaned on our financial advisors, our accountants. We have an amazing manager who is very organized so that when numbers were needed, they were right there and accessible. We also, right before all this happened, we had just refinanced with a security-backed line of credit. So we know that if times did get hard, we were only responsible for that interest that month, so that we would be able to have that money in the bank. So
yes, and we were also very active in social media, always putting our business in the forefront, of course. But we Lisa and I believe that it's very important to support all of the businesses in San Angelo. And so we, if they posted something, we shared it. We're very supportive with our local businesses that partner with us downtown San Angelo. We support artisans of all kinds, whether it be the farmer or the artist or ballet or symphony. So we support all of them as well. We believe, I guess the most important thing I'm trying to say is supporting Raw 1899 in our businesses. It's supporting our business as well. So we encourage everyone. Venue is a big deal with us. We have been able to donate our venue space for things like the West Texas Rehab, the Children's Advocacy Center, and West Texas Guidance. So we're very...
Thank you, Lisa and Nathania. Your time is up. We're going to open it up to questions. One question from our judge.
Ladies.
Hello.
Can you see me?
So I'll go off. I was waiting on the ladies. I'll go off on the first question. First of all, congratulations and amazing what you're doing. On the process of innovating, obviously you mentioned your staff is what helped you go through this whole process, and it shows how great of a leaders and bosses you ladies are. what can you do? What are you going to do with your staff to kind of give them the thank you or the amazing, hey, let's get through this together now that things are getting back on track? Do you have anything planned for that based using the money, or what else are you going to make sure that you keep those amazing people working with you?
We do have a great staff. We believe in really having a great conversation with them and asking them if they need anything, if they need food, or how they are financially with their own housing. Most of our staff is, they're doing okay. They do depend on our money. So with the PPP, we did. We were able to have that to help to support them as well. And we also did allow them to come in, when we were closed, to clean, to come up with unique menu items. They love it when they come up with something kind of fun so that their name can be on the menu too. So that's kind of fun.
So we have time for one more question.
I have a question. Kimberly, do you have a question? Is your mic live yet? No, it's not. Okay. What a neat space.
Thank you.
I'm in San Angelo. I want to come and visit. It sounds
Yes.
really, really, really neat. And it sounds like something that kind of creates community, which I think is needed now more than ever.
Yes.
So well done, ladies, for keeping that together, and also from a social media standpoint, being a hub for community as well. So what would the $7,500 do for you and your business? Where would you put it?
We feel like we are growing so fast that our kitchen is not it's not allowing us to be able to have enough storage. So our appetizers have increased probably tenfold, and so we don't have the space. So we're looking forward to maybe a new refrigerator, freezer, something where we can start stocking more items.
So Kimberly did want me to ask you all a question. How many employees do you guys have?
Right now we have 8.
Perfect. Any other questions from our judges? Okay. Lisa and Nathania, I want to thank you so much for being on today on the Governor's Commission for Women's Pitch Competition, and have a great day.
Thank you.
So now we're going to circle back to Marcy Ray. She was able to log on. She's the president and manager of Marcella Furs and Leather in Amarillo. So we'll give her just a couple seconds to join back, join us back. And hopefully, Kimberly, do you think is your sound working? That's okay. If you want to text us the question, we can ask the question for you. Hello, Marcy.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm gonna go ahead.
Yes, we can
Okay.
see you. You have 3 minutes
good.
to do your pitch. So go ahead and please get started.
Okay, Marcella Furs for the last 2 decades has been a luxury outerwear store selling fine furs and accessories and leathers and cloth coats made out of precious fibers such as cashmere, wool, and silk. And when the pandemic hit, of course, people's idea of luxury changed, and so we had to think fast. We knew that that people's hearts were turned more toward home and family. That there was a longing for community at the same time, and they were stuck at home, so they were trying to keep busy. So we thought fast on our feet, and we decided to bring in specialty yarns made again of cashmere, wool, silk, and so on. We had to quickly rebrand ourselves. That was the first step. We had to drop the furs part because obviously we were going to have a local yarn shop right inside of our store. So we became just Marcella's, and we created 2 new websites. We created one called papillonknittery.com. We created one called marcellas.com. And we started, selling our items online when we were during the time of the shutdown. But Papillon Knittery has been the most amazing thing. We carved out a place in our store where this would take place. And the idea was to bring these artisans together. We wanted to create this sense of community that people were so longing for out there. And so, you know, being artisans ourselves, it had to be the best, had to, you know, be the best silk, wool, mohair, like I said, and of course, West Texas cotton yarns that we were going to be bringing in. We partnered with local dyers here so that we have local here as well. And also, you know, things from every corner of the world, the very finest tools. During that time, we had no layoffs. We actually were able to hire an additional employee during that time. While other places, other brick and mortars were closing down, we were thriving. And so, but here's the most amazing miracles that have happened since that time. The generations have indeed been coming together. I mean, this whole thing is about the mothers and the daughters that are coming in, and they're spending time with other knitters. We actually opened up our time for one-on-one instruction, but also group knitting sessions where people just come and they learn from each other. And those mothers and daughters are bonding. And, you know, it's about the mother who, you know, lost her son. She comes in and she says, I need to learn to knit. I have to keep my mind straight. And the grandmother, we have a grandmother that actually knits over and over again for her grandchild that is disabled. She prays over that as the whole time that she's knitting. And the hospital worker who comes in, she's exhausted from working so hard during the pandemic. And it's become a haven for these fiber artists. And because of that, we need your help. We need your help to grow this thing. It has become a very special part of our community.
Marcy, thank you so much. Your time is up, but we're going to open it up to questions for our judges. I know one question that Kimberly is going to ask is, how many employees do you have?
We had 5 when we started. We now have 6.
Natalie?
I mean, my standard question is, what are you going to do with the $7,500?
Well, the issue that we're having now is this thing has taken on a life of its own, and we need more space. We actually need to expand this thing. So we need the money to expand the side that's called Papillon Knittery.
You mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alejandro.
You mentioned you need help, and obviously you obviously the money is going to help out with that. What's something else that you think you might need help with that the awesome ladies in the community might be able to reach out and support you with?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? It didn't come.
Yeah, you mentioned you were needing help. Obviously, the money is going to go a long way to help you expand what you want to do. What's something else that you see that you might be needing help with, or something that you need to continue to work on to keep doing this awesome job?
Well, you know, some of the help that we are getting, because these folks obviously help teach each other. But the financial side of that, you know, we, like many other places, took out an EIDL loan, and there's something about it, something in there that says that we can't expand. And so we need funding to help us to be able to expand. It has to be something other than EIDL money.
Perfect.
So 7,500 is very important to us.
So from Kimberly, she liked the pivot and being in community focused. Mm-hmm. Thanks for using West Texas cotton. Congrats, the no layoffs. Yes. What's your biggest challenge going forward? And this will be the last question.
The biggest challenge going forward, because Papillon has outgrown its space. That is our biggest challenge that we are facing right now. Marcella's is still very strong, but of course we are giving up more and more floor space because it's becoming such an important thing. We've got people coming in from all over the United States. We get travelers every single day. They're finding us on Google and all of these different apps, and they're coming in every day and buying our specialty yarns. So it's been an amazing thing, an amazing growth. And I think the problem might be just that we are growing too fast.
Marcy, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being one of our pitch competition. And so now we're going to go ahead and let the judges convene and go ahead and gather their scores. And I just want to remind everybody that voting is now open for the People's Choice Award. Thank you again to Amarillo National Bank for sponsoring this award of $1,000. All of you watching live today get to choose this winner. If you haven't yet entered to vote, text award, AWARD, to 37607. That's award, AWARD, to 37607. Once you signed up to vote, text the corresponding letter on your screen to vote for your favorite pitch. We'll give you 30 seconds to make your choice. And judges, if you can submit your final scores to Christina, and we'll give our judges some time.
Please. I'm gonna throw up. And I bet we get $1,000.
As we're waiting for our final results, As we're waiting for our final results, I just want to take the time to thank Amy Wood, the CEO of Flint Avenue in Lubbock, Ao Iogi, the CEO and founder of Hangio in Lubbock, Marcy Ray, the president and manager of Marcella Furs and Leather in Amarillo, and Lisa Curry and Nathania Cox, co-owners of Raw 1899 in San Angelo. I can't even talk today. So if we can bring up all of our pitch competitions, if y'all can come back online, please, that would be great. We are waiting for the final results. And I just want to say, I want to thank everyone for participating to survive the pandemic speaks volumes on your resilience. As women business owners, you've had to wear many hats. You had to be teachers, you had to help your employees and families and communities stay safe. To be on this side of the pandemic speaks volumes, and I take my hat off to y'all. It takes a lot of time to put the pitches together and to be here today, and I just want to personally thank you all.
Thank you.
And so now I would like to announce today's Viewer's Choice winner. So by a landslide, Hangio is our Viewer's Choice winner. So congratulations to you. And I want to thank Amarillo National Bank for sponsoring this award and congratulating AO. And then our pitch competition winner goes to Marcy. Yeah. So we want to thank you so much. Hangio is in a close second.
Thank you.
So Marcy Ray, congratulations.
Thank you.
But everybody's a winner from being on this side of COVID.
Yes.
Congratulations, everybody. I'm so impressed. This was very difficult. For me personally, it was very difficult. I mean, everybody has just done such a great job to pivot and to keep going and to keep the doors open, keep the communication lines going, keep staff going, keep everything moving. And that's amazing. It's just amazing. So we're not through it yet. So just keep it up. Just keep it up and continue to be great hubs and community builders in our communities, because we need that more than ever now. So
we need you all. And thank you. And thank you, West Texas, for attending the Governor's Commission for Women's webinar. I hope you have good takeaways, and a special thanks to Ray Laurent, the Regional Director of Americans SBDC at Texas Tech University, Lubbock, and Gina Woodard, the Regional Director of Americans SBDC at WTAMU here in Amarillo. And especially big thanks to the wizard behind the scenes, Christina McKinney, the Executive Director for the Governor's Commission for Women. And we could not have done this webinar series without Gina and Ray and our committee that helped put all this together, and our great panelists and our pitch competition. Thank you all so very much. And thank you for a successful webinar. If you want more small business tips, there are 3 more webinars remaining in the Governor's Commission for Women's webinar series. We have our South Texas on August 8th, our North Texas on September 15th, and East Texas on September 29th. All those webinars are free. Please go ahead and sign up at the Governor's Commission for Women's website, and you'll have a very special afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you all so much.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it.